Jesus. You think he changed his mind? Hold it together.
Jordan Scott directs A Sacrifice, also known as Berlin Nobody. Jordan Scott, actually the daughter of Ridley Scott, and this movie stars Eric Bana and Sadie Sink. Now this is actually based on a novel, and I haven't read the novel, FYI, so I don't know how it compares to the source material. And it's effectively a sort of slow burn drama about the effects of cults and groupthink and how it can affect one's decision making, you might say. So the story is set in Germany, and Eric Bana is some type of psychologist that's kind of writing a book, his second book. He also lectures at the local university, and he's divorced from his wife, and he has a teenage daughter played by Sadie Sink. And she comes over to stay with him for a while, and she immediately meets this guy, this handsome, hot guy on a tube, and starts a romance. At the same time, Eric Bana's character seems to be striking up a romance himself with this other psychologist who works with the police. At the same time, there's been this mass suicide from what appears to be some type of cult, and then there's a second suicide with a singular person that may or may not be related. Now this cult may have wider ambitions. What will happen? You will have to watch the movie and find out. So, what do we think works in this movie's favour? So, I have to say the acting is the thing that stood out to me the most with this film, because Eric Bana and Sadie Sink, I think, do a great job of our lead characters. Daughter and father. I thought they had a good relationship, their interplay was strong, and I think both are good actors and portrayed a genuine kind of father-daughter relationship, in my opinion. But also the supporting cast as well, I thought, also did a good job here. So the acting is solid. Now, the cult aspect of this is not about like a satanic cult or anything like this. The cult is actually to do with like a Greta Thunberg style going back to nature and kind of throwing off the shackles of modern human life and returning to nature and stuff like this. So this cult ultimately want to effectively cut ties with anything man-made and technology and the growing virus that is the human race, you might say. So it has some interesting commentary, certainly on man's impact on the planet. But also Eric Bana's character is the psychologist that's studying groupthink and how effectively mass suggestion effectively stops anyone from having like a critical thinking and being able to think for themselves. So we have these kind of two perspectives really on the kind of that are opposed to a large degree. So I kind of found that sort of interesting, and it's a scary thought having these cults being able to groom people ultimately, and get them to do despicable things. And obviously we have seen these sort of things happen in real life, and that there have been obviously mass suicides in real life. So it's not in the realm of impossibility, and then tying it into this kind of environmental message I thought was interesting. And the leader of this kind of cult is very charismatic. She's kind of using sort of social media. So I do feel this movie is kind of ripped out the headlines to a certain degree. Again, it is based on a novel. So yeah, there's some interesting kind of commentary, although it doesn't kind of dwell too much on that aspect of it. It's introduced and it's kind of left there for you to kind of think about to a large degree. As the kind of the plot goes on, we kind of learn more about people's involvement and stuff like that. And I thought the climax does ramp up the tension a little bit. So it's a slow movie, certainly, but I do feel it was an intriguing watch. I wasn't bored in this film. So what doesn't work in this movie, it is a slow film, and it is largely a dialogue-driven movie without much visual kind of going on, if that makes sense. It is mostly people talking in rooms. So visually speaking, it's not all that exciting. In actual fact, I would say this movie kind of feels like a TV movie. It feels like something that, I mean, it was like you would see directly to go on sort of cable TV, something along the lines of that. Because there's really, it's just that kind of like conversations in rooms, but well acted conversation rooms with an interesting plot, just not all that visually exciting. Maybe this is an instance where if you were to read this, you would get more out of it. But watching it on screen, as I say, you know, there's not a huge amount to get excited about visually. That being said, you know, it's kind of nice to have a film set in Germany and have all these kind of, you know, landmarks and things like that. I will say, as the film progresses and we get to the third act and the kind of the finale, I have to say it gets a little silly to me, and a little bit convoluted, because the plot takes some sort of turns. And I just think it gets a little bit too convoluted and convenient is the best way I would describe it without sort of spoiling anything. It just seemed a little bit too out there to a certain degree. I also really were confused about the motivations of these cultists, because I didn't really understand the relevance of them killing themselves, to be honest. These are environmental, or at least that's what they purport to be. But again, it doesn't make it clear if these people are actually thinking that, or if it's just a kind of a cover, or just a kind of like a smokescreen for other things. But I didn't understand the relevance really of these people killing themselves and how that would help the sort of the planet or whatever. It just wasn't really, that message wasn't really kind of brought across, to be fair. And the other thing I would say, I mean, in the plot here we have Eric Bana's character, who has a somewhat of a strange relationship with his daughter. They seem in good terms initially, but obviously he's divorced, living in Germany, whilst the mother is in America. So obviously they're not seeing each other much. But when the daughter arrives, Sadie Think's character, he's like off. He meets this woman and he's off with her most of the time. I would have thought it would have been, you know, you don't really see them doing much together, if I'm honest. And there's like one scene when they sort of go out for dinner, but other than that, they're kind of separate, which I found odd, considering we're meant to believe. I mean, he feels guilty about a kind of an accident that had happened before, so you would have really thinking he's trying to, you know, repair this relationship with his daughter, but he just seems to be too consumed with work or his budding new romance. So yeah, it's an interesting movie. Although I don't know how the book plays out, if it's any different, but it's kind of it's watchable, but it's a little bit flat for me. But it is propped up, I would say, by good performances. I wish it had a little bit more depth in it, to be fair. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.